Hi, and welcome to the Vitamin D Masterclass. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the replay, and thank you, Jessica, for being here with me today. I'm so excited to bring this masterclass to you guys. Jessica and I have done a lot of talking about how important it is to educate you guys on increasing your vitamin D stores and how everyone seems to be struggling with chronic low vitamin D. So today I'll be hosting the masterclass. Hi, my name is Coach Sarah Joy, and I'm a certified transformational nutrition coach. And I specialize in helping women struggling from a thyroid condition restore their health and happiness. And I'd like to introduce you into my beautiful guest speaker today. Her name is Jessica Sharp. Jessica is a thyroid patient advocate and holistic nutrition coach who helps women reverse their thyroid condition naturally so they can lose weight, restore their energy, and get their life back. She is on a mission to help thyroid patients create a more sustainable and health-centered environment by reconnecting them with nature, where they can thrive away from invasive medical procedures and diet culture. She is the creator of Holistic Thyroid Restore, which turns defeated, exhausted, and frustrated thyroid patients into vibrant, excited, and confident individuals ready to get back to the people they were before their thyroid disease held them back. Thank you so much for being here, Jessica.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Really excited to be here and talk about vitamin D because it is something that I love.
Yeah.
I love talking about.
Yes. I actually contacted Jessica because recently I've been seeing in a lot of my clients' lab work that everyone is low in vitamin D. And when I mean low, like it's like below the range point low, like super deficient. And it's something I've personally struggled with. And I'm like, okay, this isn't good. Like, what's going on here? And so Jessica is going to share with us all the insights into why this is happening. So give me 1 second. I'm going to open up share screen and get us over to the awesome slides. Okay, Jessica, if you want to take it from here, it's all yours. You're muted.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about vitamin D and why it's so important for your health, but also all of the amazing cofactors and everything else that is involved. So obviously, I just want to start by saying that this is honestly just for educational and informational purposes only, and we're not medical, mental health, or healthcare practitioners. And we always recommend talking to your doctor before making any changes in your supplement routine. We are not here to diagnose or treat or anything like that. So always talk to your doctor for sure.
Sorry, you guys, I'm doing the slides.
No worries.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about why you might be low in vitamin D, how to raise it naturally, and then of course what the best sources of vitamin D is, if supplementation is helping or hurting you, and then of course the cofactors and how to test appropriately. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And so we're going to start with just vitamin D, what exactly it is and what it does. So vitamin D is a fat-soluble nutrient. I need to get this slide, hold on. So it's known as it's a fat-soluble nutrient. It's known as the sunshine vitamin, but it actually is very closely related structurally to estrogen and cortisone. So it's actually more of a hormone. It acts more like a hormone in the body. So I don't think a lot of people realize this when they take vitamin D, because it does act like a hormone. So you don't want to necessarily mess with that too much, especially just by blindly supplementing. But because it is a fat soluble nutrient, it is stored in the body, especially in the liver specifically, but it also gets stored in the brain and other areas as well, but mostly like the brain and liver is probably the most popular, most common. It helps to maintain normal blood levels of calcium, which affect your heart and nervous system. And of course, it's really good for your bones and teeth. It regulates insulin and makes your muscles stronger, which is really awesome, especially if you are deficient. You can also carry a lot more belly fat, which is really interesting, especially for us ladies. Also, it's really good for supporting your immune system, your lung health, your cardiovascular health, which we did talk about. And then of course, it's used to activate over 2,000 genes, genetic material. So if you are, or I guess your genetics, so if you are low, then certain genes can turn off and on depending on, which you talked about in terms of like epigenetics as well. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with epigenetics, but it's a really interesting, it's super, if you really like to nerd out and all that stuff like I do, epigenetics can turn certain genes on and off, which is really fun.
Yeah.
If you're low or high, or you have too much, it can mess with your certain genetic material and either cause issues or mostly probably cause issues. Next slide, Sarah. Okay, so vitamin D is actually made in the body through the sun, and it is one of the nutrients that requires literally a whole body participation to actively, to form fully active vitamin D. So, and those organs are the liver, the skin, the bloodstream, the kidneys, and I think, of course, that includes all the cofactors involved in that as well. And it's stored in the brain, the bones, liver, skin, and spleen. So if you think about those things, you're also going to be thinking about when, in terms of sourcing it, if you're trying to get it from food, the brains, the bones, liver, skin, and spleen are all very good areas or good things to eat to get more vitamin D. I'm really sorry, it's really loud in here. People are playing music, they're having a party. But so it is estimated that approximately about 50% of people are deficient in vitamin D. The reasons for these is usually from a low fat or no fat diet or a bad fat diet. So a lot of a high amount of polyunsaturated fats or really like seed oils, things like that. Nutrient deficiencies, specifically zinc, K2, magnesium, and vitamin A, and retinol form, which is very different than beta carotene. And I want to stress that because whenever you say vitamin A, a lot of people assume that it's beta carotene, but it is not. Beta carotene is a carotenoid and it's an amazing antioxidant and we still need it. So I don't want to discredit beta carotene, but I think that it's also, it's not the same as retinol. You have to convert beta carotene to retinol in the body. Also not getting enough sunscreen, using a lot of sunscreen, which a lot of people do because we've been programmed to believe that the sun is actually very toxic, but it's not. It's very important. And when we lather on sunscreen, we're blocking that sun from getting into our skin to create the vitamin D. A lot of sunscreens are also actually really bad pollutants for your body and actually end up accelerating your chance of getting skin cancer, which is interesting. And almost like it's kind of counterintuitive. So it's really important that if you do take it, that you use a mineral-based sunscreen. And then also pollution. So if you're constantly in an area that is overcast, you're not going to get as much skin or sun on your skin. And of course, skin color plays a role as well. So darker skinned people tend to need more sun than lighter skinned people more often as well. So usually anywhere from, like, the average person should be getting at least 20 to 60 minutes a day. But if you have darker skin, you might need to do up to an hour a day in the sun just to get some extra exposure. This is actually really interesting too, because I mean, that's kind of, if you look at the geographics of the world, if you look at how certain people who have darker skin lived closer to the equator, and then people who lived farther from the equator had lighter colored skin, it just makes sense because your body will naturally tan when you get too much vitamin D. So it's your body's natural defense mechanism to try and not overdose on vitamin D because it only needs so much. So that tan is going to prevent you from getting as much vitamin D. And then as the winter goes on, as your body uses it, you start to lose that tan, if that makes sense. So the more sun exposure you have, the darker your skin will be. And it's really kind of interesting. And of course, then the people that lived closest to the equator tended to be very darker skinned people because they didn't need as much sun because they were surrounded by it all day, like every day. So also not eating enough protein can affect your vitamin D status. And then, which is really important for vegans and vegetarians, if you're not eating a lot of protein or getting a lot of protein rich foods, that will affect your vitamin D status. And then of course, stomach juices like your stomach acid and bile will affect the amount of vitamin D that you can absorb from food. And then also the integrity of the wall intestine. So we're talking about leaky gut and all that stuff here. If you have leaky gut issues, you're not going to have as much stomach acid to digest it from your food, which is really important. And then of course, chronic stress and inflammation is huge, especially, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then of course, your weight, so your fat cells do require more vitamin D, and people that are deficient in vitamin D also tend to have more belly fat, like I was saying. So it's almost like this double-edged sword where you need more vitamin D to get rid of the weight and make your muscles stronger. But then also, if you are larger, you will need to have more vitamin D. So it is an important nutrient. And those are some of the most common reasons why most people are deficient in it. Of course, so when we're talking about vitamin D, of where you can source it, okay, so obviously the sun is the most important source, but if you are deficient in the building blocks of vitamin D and all the co-nutrients or cofactors, you're going to have a really hard time with activating it. So you can get a lot of sun, but if you're deficient in any of the cofactors, you're still going to be deficient in vitamin D. So the sun is a good source, especially for vegans, but or really anyone. But if you're looking to get vitamin D from food, it's not that abundant at all in plant foods for literally the same reason that I just said, is if you're deficient in the cofactors, which are normally only really found in animal foods, you're going to have a really hard time activating it, because the vitamin D that's also in plant foods is it's D2, which is not the same. It's not an activated version of D2. So you're getting all of these amazing benefits from the plant, but it's not your body's not able to activate it correctly. And this is very true with a lot of nutrients that come from plants. So that does play a role in whether or not vegans are deficient or not. So getting sun is important. Eating foods, even if it is plant-based, is still important. But if you're deficient in the cofactors, you're not going to be able to metabolize it very well. So in terms of food sources, your best bet are going to be from the beef organs, which I was talking about earlier, which is the liver, brain, bones, spleen, and skin. Those are all sources, like good sources of activated vitamin D, because the animals have already activated it in their bodies. So when you eat those parts of the animal, you'll also get that activated D in your body as well. And then of course, cod liver oil, which I know nobody likes the taste of, but it's very good for you. And it's also really good, high in omegas, which is important as well. Egg yolks are a really good activated source. And then of course, butter, it's a decent source. It's not the best, but there is D3 in butter. And then fish eggs is a great source. And then oily fish, so like salmon, mackerel, sardines, all the things, basically like fatty fish, essentially. So those are all really good sources of activated vitamin D from the diet that your body doesn't have to activate already on top of that, just to get your source.
So it sounds like what you're saying is it's important to eat some of these foods, bring these foods in, and then also include the sun daily, and then the two work together in order to bring up your levels?
Yes, because a lot of these organs and stuff like that, for example, will also have the cofactors as well. So like when you eat food, you're not just eating vitamin D, of course, right? So everything that is a whole food will have all of the co-nutrients as well. So if you're eating if you're eating, say, beef liver, that has all of your cofactors, which will also help activate the vitamin D that you're getting from the sun. So as long as you're getting the cofactors and everything is fine in that sense, then you should be fine with activating vitamin D from the sun. But if you're deficient in the cofactors, then you're not going to have as much benefit from the sun. And even if you do get vitamin D from the sun, you might tend to burn versus tan because you're deficient in something that is causing more of the burn. It's usually inflammation that causes sunburns and not so much the actual sun. A lot of people that are not deficient can go in the sun without burning, no problem, even if they have red hair and they're super white and they tend to be like Irish or something that are like more northern people. But when you go in the sun and you burn, that's a very good indication that you're actually deficient in probably a lot of things that's causing inflammation that's burning in the sun. Most people should not need to take sunscreen, or use sunscreen. I myself burn a lot in the sun, and I'm pretty sure it's because of my vitamin A issues. But yes, we'll get into that as well. But the sun should not really be hurting anyone. If you think about how long we've we've all been around the sun, and no one's really gotten burned except for the last how long. But everybody, I guess we've been told that it's because there's no, there's that the world, I guess, so on and so forth, is being, I don't know what that's called, like in pollution, where they're talking about the sun is a lot more strong, which I'm not saying that it's not. I think that plays a role, but I don't think that it's a reason why we're burning. I think that there's a lot of inflammation going on, and that's what's causing a lot of the burning to begin with.
It's hard to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe wait for those guys.
Is that?
No, it's just those guys in the back.
Is that better?
I mean, I can hear you.
Talk directly into my mic.
There you go. That's a little better. Okay.
Okay. So we're going to talk about vitamin D as well from supplement form. So lanolin is the main source of vitamin D. So unless it says otherwise, usually almost every source of vitamin D is going to be sourced from lanolin, which is again, unless they say otherwise. Sometimes it'll say cod liver oil, and sometimes it'll say lichen, which is a plant-based form. But most of it is derived from lanolin. And lanolin is basically a waxy byproduct that is derived from sheep's wool after it's been sheared or shorn. And basically what they do, it's honestly a really long process, and it involves a lot of really bad activation methods, because vitamin D, even when you get it from the sheep's wool, they have to activate it as well. So, and they activate that through irradiation. So basically radiation activates it, which, I mean, I don't know how you feel about radiation, but I personally try to not ingest that because it does have an effect on the body. And that's just activates it. But not only that, the sheep that they're sourcing from tend to it's kind of weird. Sometimes it's hard to believe we live in 2021 and this stuff still happens. But basically what they do is they put these sheep on this it's not like a conveyor belt necessarily, but it's this whole process where they put it on this thing, and they literally get this bath of pesticides. And then they shear the sheep, and then they bathe it again in pesticides to kill anything that might be on the wool. And then they take that same thing, and of course they wash it and all that stuff too, but it doesn't change the fact that they're still bathing sheep in pesticides. And then they're using that to make your vitamin D after they activate it with radiation. So it's just the whole process of vitamin D in general is it's not the most sustainable, nor is it very healthy for us. So when we're ingesting that, it's not going to really do much benefit if we're trying to get rid of inflammation by eating things that can cause inflammation, especially in terms of pesticides and all that stuff. So there are plant-based forms though, like lichen, for example, is a plant-based form. However, it still goes through a similar process and it still gets, they still activate it with radiation. So it's not like it's not a perfect system, but the plant-based ones are probably a little bit more sustainable, especially in terms of pesticides. But it's lanolin in general, like if you are going to buy vitamin D supplements, just try to get it from a cod liver oil source or something a little bit more, I guess, less inflammatory, I guess.
That's terrible. I didn't know that they did that to the sheep. That is so sad. And
yes.
So the first thing that comes to mind when you said it is like, well, how is this vitamin D from lanolin even helping us if it's radiated? Because usually radiation cancel out any of the good properties that you would be taking it for.
Yes. I think that's kind of the point, is that it can be very inflammatory. And if you're having Hashimoto's symptoms or autoimmune issues and you're taking a lot of or even inflammation in general, if you have a lot of inflammation, your vitamin D supplement could be contributing to that, just because of the process that it is and the extraction and all that stuff. Isolated nutrients are never going to be the same as a whole food, so it's always better to try and avoid as much inflammation as possible. And I don't think a lot of people really understand where their vitamin D is coming from or what the process is. It's very lengthy. You can definitely do some research on it, but and again, it's because it takes so many systems for your body to naturally activate vitamin D. It's not that surprising that it's such a lengthy system, because it does take multiple steps just to get it to a place where it can be activated, and it's usually done with radiation.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay.
So vitamin D as well, like when you're testing, there's vitamin D is actually part of a complex. So there's cholecalciferol, which is known as the storage form of vitamin D. So this is actually the form that doctors test for. It's the storage form of vitamin D. So your body is going to move cholecalciferol to the liver and kidneys to convert the storage form of vitamin D to the active form, which is 125 dihydroxycalciferol. It's such a long word. It's really hard to say, but I love these medical words where they're just like, I'm like, I don't even think that's a word. I don't even know how to say that. I swear these people have to take like an English times 400 class to learn how to speak these words, but
right?
It's like calciferol or whatever. So it's dihydroxycalciferol, and it's the active form is 125. So most doctors will only test for the storage form. So the storage form, what your body does basically, if you want to go to the next slide, Sarah. So basically what this does, your body is going to naturally raise your active vitamin D when it's under any kind of threat, I guess, especially in terms of like a viral or bacterial or some kind of infection, or when there's a lot of inflammation in the body. So what happens is that if you're only checking your storage form of vitamin D and you're getting so if you're only checking your storage form of vitamin D and not your active form, you're missing a very important piece of this puzzle, because if your storage form is low, but your active is high, then you know that you're dealing with some kind of infection that needs to be dealt with, or some kind of inflammation that needs to be dealt with. A lot of times when your body will lower the storage form on purpose. So when you're taking vitamin D, it's going to try and override this process. You're actually causing more of a problem in your body and creating more inflammation for yourself. So if you don't want to override that process, you want to just keep like focusing on the support nutrients and try and get rid of those, like the inflammation. So retinol is kind of something I also want to talk about. Retinol is really important, especially magnesium and zinc and sodium, potassium. These are all huge and important cofactors in reducing inflammation. And then also you can use things like herbs and turmeric and stuff too. But retinol is really important because if you go to the next slide, retinol and vitamin D have a very, very intricate relationship. But what happens during the craziest part too is what happens when okay, so when you are low in these nutrients, this can really perpetuate your Hashimoto's and thyroid issues because they can lead to adrenal burnout. So magnesium and potassium and sodium and zinc are all used in high amounts during stress and inflammation, which inflammation is just stress in the body. So your body is going to burn through these 4 minerals very, very quickly, which is going to perpetuate the issue that you're already dealing with. The close relationship between retinol and vitamin D is really important because every time you take vitamin D and you don't have vitamin A that goes along with it, you're causing more of a deficiency in your vitamin A, which is causing more of an issue with your thyroid and your inflammation. So you're just perpetuating the issue, which is causing your body to use more minerals, which is causing you to it's leading to more of a burnout. And of course, the digestive issues, like your body needs zinc and sodium and magnesium and potassium to create stomach acid. So if you're deficient in those things, you're going to have a hard time absorbing your protein, which is another important thing for vitamin D absorption. Your muscles aren't going to be as strong, which is going to cause more of an issue with weight imbalances. So if you're having a hard time losing weight, it could be because of a vitamin D deficiency, not because you're not eating enough protein, but because you're not absorbing the protein that you are eating. So all of this vitamin D supplementation can actually, even though you're trying to raise your levels, you could be actually causing more of an issue. Also, because we are taking vitamin D supplementation, we're overriding this issue, we're going to start absorbing more calcium, and calcium can go into the soft tissue, which can cause hypercalcification, which can lead to, especially in conjunction with hypercalcification, while also being in a high state of inflammation can lead to a lot of other issues as well, including like strokes and heart attacks and stuff too. That's a dangerous level to be at. You don't want hypercalcification along with inflammation. It's why a lot of people end up having heart attacks and strokes, and it's really important that we address this. And I'm not sure why not many people have talked about this in the past. And I think it could have saved a lot of people, but unfortunately, this research is very slow, and nutritional research is not, the forefront of pharmacy and all that stuff. So, and then also like lowered immunity and all that stuff too. If you have lowered immunity, that's going to create things like how Sarah talks all the time is Epstein-Barr virus and a bunch of other things to take over and start hiding behind things. Your heavy metals will start going up because you're starting to get deficient in your nutrient minerals, which is going to start raising your heavy metals because your body needs to use something in replacement of the deficiencies. So it's just this domino effect of issues, which typically it usually is when it comes to stuff like this. So so this is all really important. And then I think the next slide is vitamin A, but I'm not sure. Oh yes, the cofactors. So the vitamin D cofactors, these are the things, so basically these are the things that work very closely in conjunction with vitamin D, and they either activate it or they work together with it. So your important cofactors are vitamin A, retinol, not beta carotene, vitamin K2, and then zinc and magnesium. So a deficiency in any of these nutrients will result in a vitamin D deficiency, which will result in multiple other deficiencies from there. Next slide.
So, I might be jumping ahead, but I wanted to just say something right here, ask you a question. So instead of focusing on taking a vitamin D supplement, would you say that these are the 4 cofactors to take and focus on getting through your food instead of the vitamin D?
Yes, because even if you take vitamin D and your levels are not getting better, like at all, if your levels are stuck at this specific amount, no matter how much vitamin D you take, no matter how much sun you get, if you're deficient in any of these 4, vitamin A, K2, zinc, and magnesium, you will not be able to raise your levels well enough that you'll notice a difference, because you're just going to keep perpetuating this inflammation cycle. So if you actually use these 4 nutrients instead, and then you also are getting enough sun every day, you won't need to take vitamin D, which is great, because then you can avoid the lanolin, you can avoid all those like highly inflammatory ways to get vitamin D in your system.
And you guys, after when I send out the replay, I can send out some links of some good brands, some good of these 4 companies or brands that you guys can order from if you're interested in bringing these into your life.
Alrighty, so vitamin A, this one is really awesome, and this might actually blow your mind, because I remember learning about vitamin A and I was like kind of pissed off that no one told me this for the longest time. It took me 4 years to find info on this, but okay, so vitamin A. So being deficient in vitamin A will prevent you from being able to use your thyroid hormone, which is super crazy, because every time you take vitamin D without vitamin A, you are depleting your vitamin A even more. So the more thyroid hormone you use, the greater your need for vitamin A. So if you find that you're taking more and more and more thyroid medication, especially if you're taking vitamin D at the same time, or at least within the same day, you're going to start needing to take more vitamin A. So if you find that no matter what, your levels just keep rising and rising and rising, you're probably actually perpetuating your vitamin A deficiency even more. So if you can fix that deficiency, then you won't need to use as much. You'll probably find that your thyroid meds start to actually work better, and you'll start to notice the feeling. There's a lot of people as well that have they have I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. There's a lot of people that have started thyroid hormones and they haven't gotten results with them, so they still feel like the same that they did before, or even worse. And it could honestly just be because they're deficient in vitamin A, which is very, very common. Even small amounts of vitamin D supplementation reduce vitamin A in the body. So even if you're taking an infant dose, like 400 IUs, which is like nothing, you're still perpetuating this deficiency in vitamin A. Also, when you have a lot of inflammation in the body, vitamin A is used up even more quickly. So, and that just keeps perpetuating this vicious cycle. It also prevents hypercalcification, which is really important, because the more vitamin D you take, the more calcium is going to rise in your body, which I think we all know. We've been told this our whole life, that every single time you take vitamin D, your calcium levels will rise. You should always take calcium with vitamin D. You can actually just take vitamin D and your calcium levels will naturally rise anyways. So you don't need as much calcium as you think you do, but every time you take vitamin D without A, the calcium levels will rise, but the vitamin A will keep those calcium levels from going into your soft tissues and causing that inflammation that can lead to heart attacks and strokes and so on. So if you tend, especially like me and Sarah both do this in our programs where we do HTMA, but if you see that calcium level really high, that's a very good indication that you're deficient in vitamin A, which is really important, because that vitamin A can help get rid of a lot of the calcium buildup that's in your body just by helping eliminate the inflammation.
And just to clarify, we do not want our calcium in our soft tissues. We need our calcium in our bones. That's what helps our bones from becoming brittle and going into like osteoporosis, all those holes in your bones. And then, you know how you always hear the stories of like the old person that gets up and falls and breaks their hip? That's because, you know, their calcium is low or it's not in the right spot.
Yes. It's actually really cool because vitamin A deficiency, vitamin A deficiency, or I guess it reduces the uptake of iodine by the thyroid gland. So if you're deficient in vitamin A and deficient in iodine, or even if you're not deficient in iodine, or you haven't been getting results with the iodine that you're taking, it's probably because you're deficient in vitamin A, which means that you need, because vitamin A helps your body to like uptake iodine. Iodine is really important. And me and Sarah talk about iodine all the time. It was the thing that we were just like, we're on the same page with this, but iodine is actually super important. It's literally what creates your thyroid hormone. The T3 and T4, the 4 and the 3 represent how many iodine molecules are part of your thyroid hormone. So it is super important. And even if, again, if you're taking iodine and you're not getting results from your iodine, it's probably because you're deficient in vitamin A, and most people are. It's also really important. It has a therapy for various infections and diseases. It's an incredible nutrient for your immune system, and no one is talking about the importance of vitamin A for immunity. Everyone talks about vitamin D and how important it is, but vitamin A is super important for the development, regulation, and differentiation of the immune system. What does that mean? Is that if you are deficient in vitamin A, your body cannot tell the difference between its own cells and invasive cells. So we're talking about autoimmunity here, where if you are deficient in A, your body will start getting confused about what cells are its own and what cells are not. So it is so important, especially if you're autoimmune, to have enough vitamin A in your body, because it will help your body to differentiate the difference between bad cells and your own cells. This is huge for people that are deficient, and it can really help in terms of like antibodies and so on and so forth. So vitamin A is like one of those things that's really, no one is talking about it, and they really should be, especially in terms with vitamin D. It's one of my favorite nutrients that I love just nerding out on.
Incredible.
And it is an important cofactor anytime anything involved with vitamin D. You should always think vitamin A and vitamin D at the same time. A lot of foods are actually found together with both anyways. Like if you look at milk and dairy or other things, liver, you're getting all of your cofactors with vitamin D in those whole foods. And that's why I believe that whole foods are always going to be better than any supplement, anytime. So zinc is another one of those amazing cofactors that everyone likes to talk about lately. Zinc is actually kind of interesting because you can take too much zinc, and that kind of causes the opposite effect of immunity. Everyone's talking about taking zinc for immunity right now, but if you're taking 50 milligrams a day, you're probably not doing much for immunity. You're probably making it worse. Like, we only need small amounts of zinc. It doesn't need to be high amounts. Like, I honestly, if you're going to take zinc in a supplement form, I would suggest 15 to 30 milligrams, the very most, every day. And that's it. I wouldn't even think about taking more than that. Some of these doctors that come in, or like other people, unless they're so well versed in zinc and know their shit, like a very good, like I would never take 50 milligrams. It's very unnecessary. It's not helping. More is not always better. So zinc is important for activating the enzymes in your body that need to transport vitamin A from the liver to the other cells throughout your body. So basically it's involved, it helps to metabolize vitamin A and transport them throughout your body. It's also known as the anti-stress mineral, which helps prevent the buildup of calcium in the soft tissue as well. It's actually really awesome because copper and zinc have a very intricate relationship. So copper will cause a lot of anxiety because it's like more of a excitotoxin, but they balance each other out really well. So copper is considered more of an upper and zinc is more of a downer, and they balance each other out. So zinc it can be very helpful for calm. So when you're deficient in zinc, that's why you tend to be very like anxious a lot. So if you're you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, then that could be because of a zinc deficiency as well. So it's also important for stomach acid and bile production and secretion, which help with the absorption of vitamin D from food sources. And then of course it's found in animal foods such as liver and red meat and oysters. So plant-based sources of zinc are not reliable because they are attached to phytic acid. And I think oxalates, which also prevent the absorption. You can, however, break down oxalates with cooking. Just so you know, I don't want to be like, you can't ever get zinc from a plant-based source, but it is one of those supplements that if you are going to be vegan or vegetarian, that you supplement with zinc. It's one of those necessary ones that you should probably supplement with if you do plan on going vegan or vegetarian.
And I'd like to say something about zinc supplementation. Before I found the two companies that I use my zinc through, which is Iodine Ionic or Bemergy, I tried a lot of zinc tinctures that made me feel like I was gonna throw up, or that made me really nauseous. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I realized that it was because of the other ingredients that they mix it with. And especially if it was like alcohol based, it just really made me feel gross, like every time I took it. And so I didn't feel comfortable taking zinc because of that reaction. So I highly suggest in using like really high quality zincs that have like apple juice or purified water as the base, and staying away from anything that's cut with alcohol.
Yes, and also eat it with food too. Zinc is one of those minerals that it's almost like a B complex. I'm not sure if you've ever had a B complex on an empty stomach, but it's not a good time. Not a good time.
Yeah,
So I would always, there was this one time I was really hungover. This is very unprofessional to talk about, but it's fine. So when I was very hungover and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take my vitamins and I'll be okay. And I took my B complex, but it was an empty stomach. And I thought I was throwing up because I was hungover, but it was literally the B complex that was making me do that. And that was a very long time ago. I do not do that anymore. Yeah. But yeah, always eat it with food, and zinc picollinates, especially when it's mixed with vitamin C from a whole food source, is a lot better in terms of preventing that upset stomach feeling. And also if that still doesn't work and you still tend to get like nauseous from it, cut your tablet in half or take smaller amounts twice a day instead of taking 15 to 30 milligrams all at once. And that will probably help a lot too.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago the rule about taking supplements with food. And yeah, otherwise you're going to feel like nauseous and sick to your stomach. But I also have read a lot of information. I'm pretty sure you mentioned this on the last slide or the one before that, but yeah, taking your supplements with food actually can help a lot of the absorption and increase magnify the supplements you're taking too, especially with like fruits, like glucose from fruit. It'll help uptake the nutrient better.
Yes, exactly. Especially because your body knows how to get nutrients from food. So if you're just taking it on an empty stomach, it's like, what the fuck do I do with this? You know, like, but if you're eating it with food, it's like, oh, okay, I know what this is. I'll utilize it correctly. And then you also have more stomach acid to break it all down as well, which helps. Another thing too. So vitamin K, this is another one that a lot of people do talk about, especially a lot more lately, another fat soluble nutrient, which I'm sure everybody knows are A, D, and K, but vitamin K is another fat soluble nutrient. It comes in 3 forms. So there's K1, which is from your food sources. So literally like celery is a really common food source of K1. There's a lot of produce that's basically K1. Which isn't quite the same. Vitamin K1 is used for specific things in the body, but K2 is what we're talking about in terms of vitamin D's support as a cofactor. Vitamin K2 comes in 2 forms. There's MK4 and MK7. They're both important, and I don't really, like, I believe that they should be balanced. Like, you don't want to take too much of one type of K2. But K2 in general is created by the gut bacteria through fermentation, basically of produce and fiber in the gut. So that's why it's so important for your gut bacteria to be healthy. Because if your gut bacteria is not healthy, then when you're feeding out all this fiber and it's not fermenting correctly, or you have imbalances in your gut bacteria, you're not going to be able to create your postbiotics, which is basically what K2 is. So I just kind of want to get into this really quickly, because there's 3 different types of probiotics essentially. There's probiotics, which is your gut bacteria, and then there's a prebiotic, which is fiber. Fiber is what feeds your probiotics. So prebiotics feed probiotics. You don't have to buy fiber in a powder form. You can literally just eat produce, and that is your fiber. You don't have to buy a crazy powder supplement that is just basically produce in a powder, essentially.
Yeah, just eat a salad.
Just literally eat a carrot, essentially. Like, yeah, that's your fiber. So that's your prebiotic. Your postbiotic is your bacteria, or sorry, prebiotic is fiber. Probiotic is your bacteria, and then there's postbiotics. And your postbiotic is basically the amino acids and the vitamin K2, which is what your gut bacteria create after they ferment the fiber that is created, or like goes through your digestive tract. Your body will then absorb those amino acids and K2 through your colon, and then use it for whatever it needs to be used for. So the main probiotic that creates vitamin K2 in the colon is Acidophilus. Acidophilus is an incredible probiotic that is not very easily capsulated in a supplement. The best way to get Acidophilus is through food, fermented food. So we're talking about like kefirs and anything that's like fermented, like sauerkraut, or natto is another really good plant-based source of it as well. Natto is an incredible plant-based. It's a very strong flavored though, so it's kind of an acquired taste. But anything that is a fermented food will naturally have Acidophilus, and the best way to get that is through food, not a supplement. Just so everyone's aware. The thing is too, vitamin K2 is so deficient in so many people because we have a really high diet in rancid oils and fats that cause a lot of inflammation, x-rays, radiation, aspirin, pollution, and freezing our food. There's a lot of things that we do to our food basically that affect our guts, and if our guts are not healthy, also even taking antibiotics can kill your Acidophilus, which can cause a deficiency in vitamin K2, which, I mean, we always talk about how your gut is so important for your overall health, right? The health of your gut is what creates everything else. So if you think about the amount of times that we've taken antibiotics or been exposed to pollution or stuff, that all affects our gut health, we're not going to be able to create as much vitamin K2, and that's going to cause a deficiency, which is going to cause a deficiency in vitamin D3, which is going to go on it's just this vicious cycle once again. Vitamin K2 promotes blood clotting. So if you are on a blood thinner, or you have a lot of inflammation, or you're very close to, like, your doctor's keeping an eye on your blood clotting issues, for example, just be very wary about taking it in a supplement. And always ask your doctor anyways, but still be careful with K2, because if you have blood clotting issues, it can make it worse. It also lowers calcium in the soft tissue because it directs calcium to the bone where it belongs, which is really important. So if you do have a lot of calcium, especially showing up on an HTMA test, because it's going in your soft tissue, you're going to want to take K2, or as long as your doctor approves it, of course, because you want to direct that calcium to your bones so you don't have a heart attack. And then you also it'll help soften the arteries, and then it'll also help reduce inflammation as well. Yeah, so the best sources of K2 is grass-fed animal proteins. dairy products, natto, or anything that's fermented. Essentially, fermented foods will help create that. And it's also not stored in large amounts, so it's important to get a daily intake of it at least, or at least at the very least, like work on your gut health and eat some fermented foods, and that will help a lot with K2.
And again, I can list out a really great a K combo that I have in my full script dispensary. And I remember I sent it to you and it was like, oh, my dog just busted in. I think it was like K1, K2. It was all of them. There was like, isn't there a 4, 5, 6, and 7? There was a whole host.
Yeah, there should be K1 and then K2 and K4 and then K7. So there should be 3.
Yeah, so I have a really great complex that I can link out for that as well. And I think I'm pretty sure it was by the brand Pure Encapsulations, which is a really clean, good quality brand that I like.
Yeah, I like them too. Really awesome. All right, so magnesium, which is a huge one. Pass my charger. Magnesium is a huge one. It's right there.
And not all magnesium is the same.
Yes.
There actually is a magnesium that you need to avoid. I always get the names, all those, like you said earlier, the names.
Yes. Oh my gosh, there's so many forms of magnesium, and honestly, your body needs all of them. So, I'm not going to talk shit about any form of magnesium. They're all great, except for magnesium oxide is mostly just used for regularity. It's not really the best for absorption or like replenishing any kind of deficiency, but it's still great, especially if you tend to have issues with regularity and so on. But magnesium is a mineral that everybody knows everyone's deficient in. It's very common, especially because of the soil and how everything is so imbalanced. We tend to have a lot of potassium and I think it's calcium in the soil, but not very much magnesium at all. Also, chronic inflammation will waste magnesium at a higher rate, as well as stress. So magnesium is really important as well. Another thing, if you are taking a magnesium supplement and you're not getting any results with it at all, you're probably deficient in B6 and you're probably deficient in boron. Those two will really help keep magnesium in the cell and actually put it in the cell versus the soft tissue, because magnesium also is one of those ones that doesn't do you any favors if it's in the soft tissue. And a lot of times when we lose boron and we lose our B6 from stress or inflammation, then that magnesium will waste a lot faster and then creates more of a deficiency. And then your body will be like, I don't know what to do with this, and they'll put it in your soft tissue, and that doesn't, again, do you any favors. So you're not going to get the same benefit from magnesium if you're not taking those other support nutrients as well. Magnesium is actually involved in every step of vitamin D synthesis and activation. So again, this is huge. If you are taking vitamin D and you're not getting any results with it, it's probably because it's not activated in your system because you're deficient in magnesium. So it's really important. A bit of vitamin D deficiency is more often a magnesium deficiency or a K2 or vitamin A deficiency. So, and magnesium along with vitamin A, those two together will significantly reduce inflammation in the body. And it will also help with stress and anxiety. It'll also give you a beautiful sense of like calm and relaxation, especially with zinc. When you have zinc, magnesium, and vitamin A, those are all very calming minerals. So if you tend to be really anxious all the time, magnesium and zinc and vitamin A will be really helpful for that. Yes, it's also known as the anti-stress mineral. It helps prevent that fight or flight response, and it keeps calcium in the bone. So like calcium, magnesium almost wraps around it, keeps it in the bone, so it doesn't go into your soft tissue.
Yeah, I feel like magnesium is literally the chill pill.
It really is. And if you, it's so beautiful. I love it. That's why they call it the calming mineral. Like, I'm not sure, you're probably familiar with magnesium calm. They call it calm because it's a very calm and relaxing mineral, but it actually also gives you energy. So if you feel like you're under like a lot of like chronic fatigue is probably another issue with magnesium. And it also helps with blood sugar regulation as well. So if your blood sugar is just like a shit show, then it's probably also because magnesium is deficient. And it's so common. It's like insane. Also, your cholesterol production is not well controlled and can be overproduced in the cell when magnesium is low. So it can help with lowering high cholesterol, and thyroid patients specifically are really, really prone to high cholesterol because we are like our thyroid, like it has a lot to do with like creating a lot of cholesterol in the body. So, I mean, your thyroid controls everything. So if your cholesterol is high, which I mean, I've seen people, and myself included, who had high cholesterol when they were like in their early 20s because of the deficiencies. It's crazy. And it's also critical for the synthesis of vitamin D. So if you're deficient in vitamin D, then going out in this, or sorry, if you're deficient in magnesium, then going out in the sun is not going to be helpful because you're lacking the magnesium to activate the vitamin D from your skin. And of course, it's used for over 300 enzymes and so on and so forth through the body. And of course, a lot of those enzymes help to metabolize vitamin D. So it's really important. Magnesium is really, really important for vitamin D deficiency. It is one of the biggest ones for sure.
Yes, magnesium is amazing. All right, let's see. Instead of vitamin D.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about supplementing with vitamin D, the first thing I would do instead is reduce your stress and inflammation. Focus on your cofactors, which are vitamin A, K2, magnesium, and zinc, and then support your liver and bioflow. And I will bet you money that vitamin D level will rise and you'll start to balance. So just do the appropriate testing, making sure you're reducing your stress and inflammation. I also forgot to say something about retinol because vitamin A, for example, is one of those vitamins that you can't really supplement with, because when you supplement with it, it can actually lower your stores even more. So whenever I suggest taking vitamin A supplement, I would always take it in the form of beef liver or something that is high in body stores of animals. So I know that sounds weird, like beef brain and beef bones, but like this is things like why bone broth is so important, but also anything that has high amounts of vitamin A naturally, like cod liver oil and beef liver. Those are the two biggest ones because it's from a whole food, and when you take it in a supplement form, most of the supplements of vitamin A, even if it is retinol, are going to make your deficiency worse, and it will make your inflammation worse and so on and so forth. So when I'm talking about vitamin A supplementation, I'm literally talking about beef liver or cod liver oil, not from any pill or supplement. It is one of the most important things because you don't want to create more of a problem. So always focus on your retinol from, if you're gonna take a supplement, take beef liver capsule supplements or cod liver oil, and then K2, magnesium, and zinc.
And your favorite beef liver brand is the Ancestral.
Yes, I love, okay, so there's two, you can do Heart and Soil, which is, they're actually glass. They come in a glass bottle. And they also are grass-fed and finished in New Zealand, which has the highest standards of like animal welfare, but also their entire country is just like pasture essentially. So it's very, very clean. The animals are treated very, very well. So you're getting truly like clean animals. They're freeze dried, so they retain all of their nutrients, and ancestral supplements is also really great, but they do come in a plastic bottle, but you can also use them too. But I would do either Heart and Soil or ancestral supplements.
So you said Heart, Soil.
Heart and Soil, yes.
Heart and Soil. So it'd be like heartandsoil.com and ancestralsupplements.com.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to point out when it says liver support. So a couple ways that I use daily to support my liver as far as processes, so it's not stagnant, because when our liver is clogged and stagnant, then we can't use our supplements properly is with just drinking some room temperature water with lemon in it, fresh lemon. And I drink celery juice every day in order just to help keep my liver detox so it can work properly. Milk thistle is also a really great liver support. You can get milk thistle tea or a tincture of milk thistle. That's a really great liver support as well. Do you have any other suggestions?
Yeah, I think that's really pretty much mostly it. You can do artichoke and stuff like that too. NAC is another one that's really good. NAC is the precursor to the master antioxidant glutathione, which is really important for liver health and overall body support, and also inflammation too. The
Yeah.
best thing about this too is when your liver isn't clogged up or when your body has enough glutathione, it won't use your vitamin C and vitamin E as much because it won't need to. So alpha lipoic acid is another one that's really good for liver, and also glutathione or NAC is really great for liver too. And there are usually blends that you can get all of this in instead of taking them all individually. There are like liver support blends that have all of these things in them. So you
Yeah.
can just spend a fortune.
They pulled NAC off the market a couple of months ago, and it's been really hard to get a hold of.
You can still get it in stores.
Okay.
Yeah, so apparently the FDA is trying to put that on prescription because it works very well.
Yeah.
It's just, I really don't like these people. I don't want to get too unprofessional, but you can still get it in stores if you can find it, because Amazon and other places did pull it from their marketplace online. But if you go into an actual health food store, you can still get it. My store still has it. We have it in 4 different brands right now, so it is still around, but it might just be hard to find. But if you can find it in stores, that would be, it's like they are still manufacturing it. Nobody has said anything yet. Like it's not, it hasn't been put on prescription yet. I think people are just kind of jumping the gun, which isn't helpful right now because of all the amazing benefits of NEC, but you can still get it in stores.
Yeah. And so when you guys are supporting your liver, that also supports your pancreas, which supports your bile flow. So they go hand in hand. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm going to go to the next slide. Oh, that's it. Hey, look, it's us.
It's us, yay. So that's pretty much everything.
Awesome.
I really hope this is super helpful for you guys. And yeah, this is where you guys can find us. And I'm pretty sure Sarah at least knows who showed up live, so we could definitely do a drawing for the 30-minute coaching call. But yeah, it's super awesome.
Yeah, well, one of the lovely women on with us is one of my clients, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. So yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. That was like insanely informative. And I even learned a couple new things that I hadn't heard before. So thank you so much for sharing. You are like, you guys, isn't she just amazing with like the knowledge that she can just like spit out? I love talking to her. As you could imagine, we go out to lunch and we just talk for hours. Oh no.
Literally.
Yeah.
The only person I could talk about acidophilus with who gets me.
Yeah, I know. So I was just looking in the chat. Renee said, I'm sorry I missed it because I was on the share screen, so I wasn't seeing the chat when it came in. She said, or like mine went down instead of up on a daily dose of oral vitamin D. What the heck? How did I not know this? So I need a vitamin A? Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, we can go more into that, Renee, for sure. Also, because you're my client and I have you on a supplement protocol, it's really hard when I do the HTMA, Jessica. So HTMA, you guys, stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. And it's a test that we pull through your hair tissue in order to see your macro and micro minerals and your heavy metals. And so when I do them with my clients, there's always a really big sort of list of supplements that comes with the results, because it can, you know, we're trying to fix all the imbalances and move things so where they need to be. And I always don't want to overload people with like, okay, here's 20 supplements that you have to buy at once and spend $300, you know? So I like to sort of add things in slowly as we go throughout my program, so it's not so overwhelming cost wise. And I also try to help encourage people to get things through food. Food is the best avenue to get things. Like she was saying at the beginning, like we really don't want to be dependent on pills for the rest of our life. Like supplements are important, but we really need to focus on cleaning up our diet, detoxing our liver, cleaning up our organs and our glands, and eating as clean as possible so that we can be getting our nutrients through our food and absorbing the nutrients that we get from our food. So we're not spending $300 a month on supplementation, because that's really not that fun. And you can spend that money better in other places, right? Like going shopping.
Getting a massage.
Yeah. Getting a facial. Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that, fabric, yes, exactly. Renee is going to buy more fabric. She is an amazing seamstress, and she sews the cutest little thing.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great skill to have. I love sewing. I just was not super best at it, but I love the stuff that we got to make in like our home economics class and stuff. And it's such a great thing to know how to do. It's so important. It's a great skill to have. I'm all about anything that is like, do your own stuff, know how to make your own stuff, so on and so forth. So
yeah,
just anything that you can do by yourself that is more sustainable is amazing.
absolutely. She said, oh, thank you. So did the other gal, oh, she must have left. I'm gonna email her. There was that one gal on that I actually haven't met yet, so I'm gonna send her an email and I'll offer her the drawing for being the live participant, and ask her who she would like to do the 30-minute coaching call with. So I'll keep you posted on that, Jess. So if anyone wants to further connect with Jessica, you can email her at jmswellness1111@gmail.com, or you can connect with her on Instagram at jmswellness, and you can ask her any more questions or concerns that you have. And if you're interested in booking a 30-minute or 30 to 60-minute free discovery call with her to talk about her and her program, please reach out to her. If you're interested in talking to me or booking a call with me, you can always use the link in my bio, DM me anytime, or email me at coachjoyjoy1@gmail.com. And I am going to wrap it up from there. Thank you again for coming. You are always so impressive and knowledgeable. And thank you everyone for being here. And thank you for everyone on the replay that's going to be watching this. I'm sorry we missed you, but thank you so much for watching the replay.
Thank you, Sarah. I love talking about this stuff. So thank you so much for listening.
Yeah. Yeah, Renee says, if it was just me and her in the drawing, go ahead and give the coaching call to her. Oh, that's nice of you, Renee. I will do that. Thank you so much. Well, have a good rest of your day, everyone. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye.